Hi there, folks. The ambient music you'll hear in this episode was created by Tabletop Audio. And now I'll let our guests introduce themselves.
Hey, I'm the Bear Bard from Bear Bard Tales. I have a channel here that I go over and narrate different, generally horror stories, but all different types of stories from the YouTube verse. I'm also on Dice Goblins. We play some of the other creators in the space, Den of the Drake, Critical Kunuk, some of the other guys. We're all getting together to play some D&D and have some fun. Other tabletops as well.
Hi, I'm Fred Wheeler. I run the How to D&D YouTube channel, and I do pretty much anything on Dungeons & Dragons or any kind of role-play game, and that's pretty much me. That's it.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I usually go by Flutes as my pen name, let's say, for my website and my YouTube channel, Flutes Loot, which I do all these things with my wife. We're just a couple of enthusiasts for D&D who started writing and then started doing some YouTube as well. And we just talk about D&D, and sometimes it's about lore, sometimes mechanics, it's just like whatever we feel like.
Thank you all once again for joining me here today. So the question we're going to be tackling here today is one that I'm sure a lot of game masters are kind of trying to figure out for themselves. And I want to know, what ideas do you guys have to make travel more interesting in your games? This time we'll start with Flutes Loot. Jordan.
I like to make travel a bit more interesting by not forcing them into anything. So if I think I have an encounter for them, I usually make them like perceive something, and if they're interested, they'll go pursue it. You know, a light in the woods, a recent cave-in or avalanche that reveals some area off to the side of the road that maybe people haven't seen before, or just someone watching them that they've kind of caught on to and they've been watching them for a few miles, you know, or they want to go confront them, you know, that sort of stuff. I don't like to just do like, let's roll a survival and see if you get exhausted, and yes you do or you don't, because they don't make any decisions with that, right? I'd rather that be like, do you want to try to find shelter, or do you want to press through the night, you know? And then they're like, oh, Jordan's got something in store for either of those, which one are we going to choose, you know? That's what I like to do. See if they bite, see where they bite, what their choices are. Another thing I've actually had a lot of luck with is foreshadowing descriptions. Like one time they were going up to this like Palisades, upper mountain lake civilization where they kind of like built a city on a dam up at like a glacial lake. And they were sent there by someone who was basically like trying to get the people to leave because that lake needed to be drained because there was like very rare gemstones in it or something. And on the way there, they just saw like a mother bird, like another bird like came in and tried to like take over its nest, you know. And so that was like foreshadowing of like, you know, like the colonialism themes of that adventure they were going on. Like maybe we're on the wrong side. It just like kind of got them thinking, like, you know, just like a little foreshadowing descriptions. A lot of fun, I think. It doesn't take up a lot of time either. And then I also like to sometimes just have people show up that they weren't expecting, like a courier bringing them a letter from someone they know, you know, just a little bit of information swapping while they're traveling. Or maybe they meet some people who have heard of them and they're like, will you train me? You know, they can start like gaining followers if they have like renown in the land. People might want to travel with them because maybe they're going to get rich too. Like, your adventures, I've heard of you. Can I like carry your stuff and you can give me like a cut of your gold? You know, some like social encounters could be cool too. So any of those things I think are great ways to make travel more interesting.
The ability to do foreshadowing too is such a great skill to try and like, you know, develop. Like, not everybody has the mind for those literary or the storytelling skills, but you know, as a GM, you want to get better at those. So, you know, reading books, keeping media, finding examples of those kind of things. That was a great example of like the bird trying to take over the nest. Perfect.
It's fun to try.
Yeah. And if you pull it off, your players are so impressed when they clue into that.
They were, man. That's why I share that example. They loved it.
Alex, what kind of ideas do you have for travel?
Half the time I always just say get rid of it. I hate the travel rules in 5e as written.
Honestly, it's a way.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think of the problem is like as it is, they're all negative. And it feels very Mount Moon Pokemon where like you're just trying to do things and it's another freaking Zubat.
Yeah.
And then you get out, it's another like you don't want it doesn't it's not fun. It doesn't add anything to it. It's a freaking Zubat. So and that's how I feel like a lot of travel is now. So I like to throw beneficiary things. Or choices, kind of like what Jordan was saying, choices where like, hey, do you want to try to go down here or up here? And they can do a little bit of investigation and then maybe there's different things. One thing I got from actually the DM of the game that I'm playing in, something he does, and it's kind of something I've done, is he kind of creates some more unique situations ahead of time. And then he'll roll on a table sometime, or he'll have one of us do it. Roll on the table, and then so it's an encounter, but it's not just wolves. It's not just, hey, you find some bandits. They don't like you because you smell bad. It's one of them was a whole side thing where, it's like you run into this farmer who hates werewolves and he thinks that you've seen one. And it's, it was a whole session and a half of this side quest. Very, again, it's more like Witcher 3-esque where you're, it's interesting. There's more to it than just, hey, some wolves. It's more than just, a wolf attacks you and now you're fighting and then it's over. And again, my problem is I'm not huge into combat. Combat's fine. It has its place, but I like non-combat better. Like I'll run a game and it'll be, I went like 3 sessions without even having a combat. So I like having other types of encounters, not just fighting.
Yeah. And D&D is so heavily centered around combat too that it can sometimes feel a bit rough for the more role-play centric to use D&D as a system. But yeah, similarly, I love the role-play elements. And it's interesting when you have a game and then there's a side tangent kind of like that. And you're like, well, this wasn't what we were intending to do, but now we're so invested in this line over here, so we're gonna go pursue that for a little while.
Especially if it adds to the main story, even if it doesn't have to do with the main story. It's like, so you have a BBEG who's taken over the area. This shows that you could have a side story that contributes to that idea. You could see what happens to these people who live in the forest because of this situation going on. So it's another angle to your main conflict without being part of the main conflict. So just keep it more interesting than wolves.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not just something random. It's something that can support the rest of the story, whether that's a different perspective, some new information, and tie it all back in. Because you can always tie things back in. Fred, any advice that you can give us about how to make our travel better?
Well, I'll say that there's a place for random encounters, but I think a lot of people, when they think random encounters, they always assume that means combat. And even if you look at early versions of the game, yes, but what the Dungeon Master did when they rolled on those random charts for a monster didn't mean they were necessarily going to eat the party. Okay, so it's really still up to the Dungeon Master what they do with them. I think ultimately people focus way too much on travel. I get this question a lot. You can't really duplicate the experience of traveling from one place to the other at a table, because guess what? You're not traveling. Okay, so it is kind of silly to think that you can make that happen. And the other thing that people have got to remember is sometimes traveling from one place to another is a chore and quite horribly uncomfortable. So you don't really want to duplicate that in your game if you can help it. So it's perfectly fine to just skip it completely. But if you do want to do something with it, I was thinking, the only things in terms of the experience I feel when I'm traveling that made sense was music, sound effects of nature and so forth, and a picture. That is the simplest way to make it all happen, because that's exactly the sort of thing that you're dealing with. You're walking towards the snow-capped mountain. It looks amazing. And right now, you can't make the place cold because turning down the air conditioning is not a good idea, okay? So don't do that. But you can play the noise of the crickets or cicadas if it's a sunny day and it's summer. You can play the noise that birds make, or there's a moose off in the distance, or some other creature, whatever it might be, making noise. So those things are there that you can include, and you don't have to do it for very long. But I prefer non-combat random encounters, which aren't really that random, frankly. We call them random, but they're not really random. They're there for a purpose. And usually they've got nothing to do with the main story. They're usually to help develop characters. Or should I say, give them the opportunity to do something with their characters, right? So I've done a whole bunch of things. Repairing the wagon wheel is quite common. You stop, you help this NPC repair their wagon so they can get on their way, or you kill them, steal all their stuff, and bury them in the bush. I mean, it's up to the players, right? There's the forest fire, either escape the forest fire or put the forest fire out. Good luck with that one. I've done the lost caravan. People have gotten separated from the rest of the caravan, and you've got to link them back up with the original group. Injured animals are great because some players will try to heal or look after the injured animal, and some will have it for lunch. So you get a few different responses from that. The dead body on the road's always nice. Make sure it's got nothing on it, it's been looted. So, but it's a mystery, like what are they going to do with the dead body now? Or are they just going to leave it there? I use a lot of skill challenges too, avalanches, storms. I've done a ride down a lava river. You can do it down a normal river too. You don't have to use a lava river. And I've also done the broken bridge, where you've got a broken bridge which you can't really cross easily, so they've got to try and figure out how to do that. It works much better when they don't have fly. If they've got fly, then somebody's just going to grab a rope and fly over and it's all done. But there's quite a few ideas actually of what you can do with just travel, and they're nothing to do with combat, apparently.
You're right. Everyone asks about travel, but it's like, it really isn't something we probably should be lingering on so much, unless, again, your table has fun with that sort of thing. And my table is very roleplay heavy, very, they love to talk to each other in character. So what I've started implementing in my game, and we've been traveling for so freaking long. We've only been to 2 cities, and it's just been sessions upon sessions in travel. And what I've started to do is, my secret to DMing is not to do anything, and I allow them to use their improvisational genius to be the DM on my behalf. So I'll give during your travel, you've seen something magnificent. Point out one of the players, what was that thing? And then somebody might, follow that prompt and be like, oh, it was this. So, but this does require a lot of trust in your players to be like, you have total reign to add whatever you want to the world right now, despite that normally being my purview. And then, or if it's something like a problem happened, what happened? My players were like, well, like Fred said, the wheel broke. Okay, great. So this is the problem. Pick another player. How did you fix the problem? And another player. And how did you help them with it? And we get this opportunity to have character interactions, how they deal with just something that is mundane, and just some very small but intricate detail about those characters and how they deal with normal problems. Like, our barbarian was like, I want to jam the wheel back on, and the smarter character's like, hey, dummy, pick up the back, we're gonna put this thing on normally. So we got some just small interactions like that, and it was very sweet. That of course isn't a huge impact, but if you're a roleplay group that loves that kind of thing, it's a nice addition, just a little improv exercise. These are all very great additions for games. If folks out there, you're having trouble with travel in your games, perhaps some of these ideas can help you, or, like was also mentioned, just skip over it and get right to the next town. Because sometimes that is the best thing for your group. Well, thank you guys for joining me for this discussion of travel. And everybody out there, be sure to check out their channels, The Bear Bard, How to DnD, and Flutes Loot. Watch their content, subscribe to their channels, and Until next time, may you all play Dicely.